Hello and welcome to Peer to Peer. Admittedly, I'm not in the capital city this evening and neither are my guests, but I imagine we will be on Monday. This conversation is being recorded at 7 p.m. Central on Tuesday night, so things are subject to change. I'm joined by two intrepid reporters, Joe Sneve, who is the senior politics reporter for the Argus Leader in Sioux Falls. Joe, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, Lee.
And Stephen Groves with the Associated Press, who covers all things South Dakota, but who more recently also spent the last 2 months navigating the labyrinth that is the state capitol in Pierre. Stephen, hello.
Hi.
I think we all knew heading into session this year that marijuana was going to make up a pretty big chunk of the session. Joe, I'd like to start with you. How would you summarize where we started this session and with marijuana and kind of where we are now?
Well, at this moment in time, we are essentially where we were when we started the session when it comes to medical marijuana. Much has been made about the governor's efforts to block medical marijuana, and a lot of energy was put towards that during the legislative session. But in the final week, the wheels kind of fell off of those efforts and we're left without any change to the medical marijuana initiative that voters passed. That doesn't mean things can't change from here, but right now on the medical marijuana front, we're exactly where we started.
You had actually had a story come out today on Tuesday that was, some amendments to at least the medical marijuana IM26 that could come up on veto day. Could you talk a little bit more about some of the draft legislation that you've kind of seen that the governor's office has been circulating?
She doesn't want to give up. She says she has concerns that are legitimate regarding youth using of marijuana, and specifically like inhaling, whether it's smoke or vapors. And then she also has concerns over the amount of homegrown plants that can be in a home at one time. And she wants to pursue those concerns through more legislative action. However, folks on the state Senate side who kind of were the fly on the ointment of her efforts to block medical marijuana during session, it's a non-starter for them unless she makes concessions. And the bill that was revealed today shows she's willing to concede some form of decriminalization in order to get some of these concerns addressed.
Stephen, what did you kind of, walk into session maybe expecting and sort of where did we kind of end up here on this marijuana front?
Well, when we walked into session, actually, there hadn't been a ruling on the recreational marijuana constitutional amendment. And so that was actually one of the very first things that happened. A circuit court judge heard arguments in that, and then it was struck down by the circuit court judge. But marijuana advocates have appealed to the Supreme Court. And I think that case is on track to be decided before July 1st, which would be the deadline for new laws to be put into place. And depending on how that turns out, the landscape of marijuana in the state could still look drastically different. And that would create a situation where lawmakers would need to scramble and most likely call a special session.
Speaking of special sessions, do either of you think we're going to see some sort of special session, or does it, look like veto day could be the day that maybe some medical marijuana stuff kind of does come up?
I believe we will see a special session before July 1st. There's essentially three different triggers that could prompt such a thing. The compromise she's floating that would decriminalize marijuana to a level, I'm told, would require a special session. Lawmakers won't have had enough time by Monday to digest what the proposal is, and leaders like Senator Schoenbeck and Speaker Gosh have said another bite at this apple is going to take a special session. Like Stephen said, if the judges, the Supreme Court justices, decide to overrule the lower court's decision and uphold Constitutional Amendment A, that could bring them back for another special session. So 2021 could be shaping up to be a more historic year than it already has been legislatively.
And I would say, just to add on to that, it's important to keep in mind what triggers a special session. So the governor can call a special session, call lawmakers back to Pierre, or 2/3 of lawmakers can support a special session, and then they can call themselves.
Nome has, signaled a willingness to call a special legislative session if lawmakers don't approve her style-informed veto of a bill that's been making a lot of headlines of late, which is the bill to protect women's sports. Stephen, we have a clip from your exchange with the governor towards the end of the press conference that happened on Monday. Let's take a look real quick.
If it doesn't affect transgender people, who does it affect?
It affects women. For years, for decades, women have fought for an equal playing field, for equal opportunities, for scholarship money, for programs they can participate in, and to be treated the same as men. That's what Title IX is all about.
Would this bill affect transgender girls who want to play girls' sports leagues?
Transgender girls who want to play in girls' sports leagues, it will affect girls being able to continue to play girls' sports. And that's how we believe that girls' sports should be defined.
So, Stephen, what was the press conference about, and what were you trying to get on the record here?
Clearly, this bill would affect transgender women and girls who want to compete in the sports leagues to match their gender identity. And so speaking with transgender people and advocates in the state, they say that this effort could really be devastating to especially transgender children and teens. So they've been trying to get a meeting with the governor to discuss those concerns, but they've told me so far that she has not responded. Now, advocates for the bill have cast this as an effort to protect fairness in women's sports, say there's biological differences, whether you're born a male or born a female, that really make a difference in sports.
And Joe, since Nome announced her style-informed veto on Friday afternoon, the backlash has been pretty swift from all sides, conservative groups, liberal groups, all disappointed in the governor's decision. What kind of position is she in right now?
Politically, she's in a position I don't think she's been in to this point, since she's kind of reached celebrity status amongst national Republicans and in the national conservative circles. She's been adored for her pandemic response among the right, and she's essentially could do no wrong until this point. But she's really sort of kicked over the hornet's nest on kind of the right side of the issue that has been really friendly to her to this point. And I think they're trying to figure out the best way forward with the little amount of damage as possible.
Part of her doing so is creating this kind of national coalition of governors and attorneys general to sort of, I guess, as I read it, kind of shield themselves from any sort of NCAA backlash. Do either of you have any thoughts on whether this complicates any kind of ambitions that she might have for 2024?
Yeah, I think that, it's hard to deny that she has really been called out by a lot of right-wing pundits for, I guess, kind of waffling on this bill. And, when or if she runs in 2024, or even when she's running for governor in 2022, this will be part of her record. She has built a reputation of being hard charging, not shying down from a fight. And I think that this will be a bit of a ding on her record.
Veto Day is happening in a couple of days. I honestly can't think of a more newsworthy kind of interim from the main bulk of session to Veto Day. Is there anything else that you two wanted to add?
Well, I personally am interested to see what happens on Veto Day, considering what's taken place over the last 2 weeks. The bills have nothing to do with each other, or the marijuana issue and the transgender bill. Those two issues have nothing to do with one another directly. However, the way she's played this transgender sports bill could have implications on her ambitions to try to get House members and senators to come around to her desires on marijuana. So how those two things intertwine when it comes to her political ambitions legislatively, I'd be interested to watch.
Yeah, I would agree with Joe as far as you very rarely see kind of rank and file Republicans coming out so strongly against the governor as we've seen in the last few days. And so that's going to complicate a lot of things in terms of what she wants to do with the legislature.
Thank you both for joining me on Peer to Peer. I'll see you both in Peer next week for Veto Day. My guests were senior politics reporter for the Argus Leader, Joe Sneve, and Associated Press reporter, Stephen Groves. Thank you both for joining me.